The first time I saw Shanice, she was arguing with a vending machine. It was one of those autumn evenings when the sun sets early and paints everything gold, and I just finished a long shift at the hospital. I was exhausted. My scrub still smelled faintly of antiseptic, and all I wanted was a cup of terrible coffee from the machine in the lobby before heading home. But there she was, this woman in a burgundy coat, her natural hair pulled back in a silk scarf, gesturing emphatically at the machine like it had personally wronged her. "You took my dollar," she was saying, her voice carrying that particular tone of someone who's had a very long day. I pressed C4. That's the granola bar. Not nothing. C4. I should have walked past. I should have minded my own business. But something about the way she stood there, so indignant and so beautiful in her frustration, made me stop. Having trouble? I asked, immediately regretting how obvious the question was. She turned to me, and I saw her eyes for the first time, brown, warm, and currently narrowed in suspicion that I might be making fun of her. "This machine," she said, pointing at it like a prosecutor presenting evidence, "is a thief." I couldn't help but smile. What did it steal? My dollar, my dignity, and approximately 4 minutes of my life that I'll never get back. She crossed her arms, then seemed to reconsider, her expression softening just a bit. "Sorry, I'm not usually like this. It's been a day. I work in the ER," I said. "Every day is a day." Something shifted in her face then, a recognition of shared exhaustion. She smiled, and it was like someone had turned on a light in a dark room. "I'm a teacher," she said. 4th grade. Today, a child brought their pet snake to show and tell without telling me first. It escaped during lunch. "Did you find it?" "Eventually. It was in my desk drawer, curled up in my emergency chocolate stash." She shook her head, but she was laughing now. I screamed, in front of 28 9-year-olds. "I'll never live it down." I reached into my pocket and pulled out $2. "Let me," I said, feeding them into the machine. "What were you trying to get?" "C4. But honestly, after the day I've had, make it something with chocolate." I pressed the buttons for 2 chocolate bars, and miraculously, they both dropped. I handed her one and kept the other. "Consider a snake survival reward," I said. She took it, her fingers brushing mine for just a moment. "Thank you. I'm Shanice, by the way." "Marcus," I said, and then, because I suddenly didn't want this moment to end, because there was something about her that made the fluorescent-lit hospital lobby feel like the most interesting place in the world, I added, "Do you come here often to fight with vending machines, or am I just lucky tonight?" She laughed again, a Rayall laugh this time, the kind that crinkles the corners of your eyes. "My mom's a patient here. Nothing serious," she added quickly, seeing my expression change. "Hip replacement. She's doing great. Actually, I just visit after work." "That's good," I said. "About your mom, I mean..." We stood there for a moment, in that peculiar space between strangers and something more, both unwrapping our chocolate bars. "Well," Shanice said, "I should probably get upstairs. Room 412. She'll be wondering where I am. And I should get home before I fall asleep standing up." I said, even though I suddenly felt more awake than I had in weeks. She started to walk toward the elevators, then turned back. "Marcus?" "Yeah. If you're ever in a lobby around this time, and you see me losing an argument with an inanimate object..." She paused, that beautiful smile playing at her lips. "Feel free to intervene again." "It would be my pleasure," I said, and she was gone, disappearing into the elevator, leaving me standing there with half a chocolate bar and the strangest feeling that something important had just happened. I didn't know then that I would see her again the next evening, and the evening after that. I didn't know that our casual conversations by the vending machine would stretch from 5 minutes to 15 to an hour. I didn't know that 3 weeks later, I would finally work up the courage to ask if she wanted to get coffee somewhere that wasn't a hospital lobby, and that she would say yes before I even finished the sentence. I didn't know any of that yet. But standing there in that golden autumn light, watching the elevator doors close on her smile, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. The kind of hope that whispers, "This is just a beginning." Our first real date was on a Saturday morning in October at a cafe called the Daily Grind that Shanice had recommended. I arrived 15 minutes early, which I immediately regretted because it gave me too much time to be nervous. I changed tables 3 times before settling on one by the window, then worried that was too presumptuous, like I was trying to show her off to the street. When she walked in wearing jeans and cream-colored sweater, her hair loose in waves around her shoulders, I forgot why I'd been nervous at all. "You're here," she said, sliding into the seat across from me, and I couldn't tell if she was relieved or surprised or both. "Did you think I wouldn't be?" "I don't know," she said honestly. "Sometimes people say things in hospital lobbies that they don't mean in the real world, like how people make promises on airplanes that they forget as soon as they land. This is real," I said. "I mean, this is the real world. And I'm really here. For coffee. With you." I was babbling. I never babbled. She smiled that smile that had been living in my mind for 3 weeks. "Good. I'm really here, too." We ordered. She got a caramel latte with oat milk. I got plain black coffee, which she called a crime against flavor. And then we talked. And talked. And talked. I learned that she wanted to be a teacher since she was 7 years old. When her second-grade teacher, Mrs. Patterson, had told her she had a gift for explaining things. I learned that she had a younger brother in college studying engineering, and that her father had passed away 5 years ago from a heart attack, and that she still sometimes reached for her phone to call him when something good happened. "I'm sorry," I said. "Thank you," she replied. "It gets easier, but it never really goes away, you know? The missing." I did know. I told her about my own father, who I'd lost to cancer when I was in medical school. How guilty I felt that I couldn't save him, even though I knew logically that there was nothing I could have done. "Is that why you became a doctor?" she asked. "Partly," I said, "but also because I like fixing things. Solving puzzles. Making things better." "That's a good reason," she said softly. The conversation flowed like we'd known each other for years instead of weeks. She told me about the time she accidentally called a parent Mom during a conference, and they both just stared at each other in horror. I told her about the patient who'd come in with a fork stuck in their hair because they'd been using it as a comb and forgotten about it. "You're making that up," she said. "I swear on my medical license. The ER is a wild place." Hours passed like minutes. The morning coffee crowd gave way to the lunch crowd, and still we sat there, our cups long empty, the conversation never running dry. "Can I ask you something?" Shanice said eventually, her fingers tracing patterns on the table between us. "Anything. Why did you help me that day? With the vending machine. You could just walk past." I thought about it, trying to find the right words. "Honestly, I don't know. There was just something about you. The way you were standing there, so determined to get justice from a machine. It made me smile. And I hadn't smiled like that in a while." She looked at me for a long moment, and I felt seen in a way that was both terrifying and wonderful. "I'm glad you stopped," she said. "Me too. You want to know something funny?" she continued. "I actually got a granola bar earlier that day, from a different vending machine. I wasn't even hungry. I don't know. I had seen you walking to the lobby the past few days, always looking so tired, and I thought maybe if I was at the vending machine you might stop. And then when the machine actually did eat my dollar, I thought maybe the universe was trying to tell me something. My heart did something complicated in my chest. You engineered the vending machine incident? No, the machine really did steal my dollar. I just might have been hoping you'd notice." She was blushing now, and it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. "Shanice," I said, reaching across the table to take her hand. She didn't pull away. "I noticed you the first day I saw you in that lobby. You were reading to your mom from a book of poetry. I could hear your voice from down the hall. I've been hoping you'd notice me for weeks." "Really? Really?" She turned her hand over, lacing her fingers through mine. They fit perfectly, like they'd been designed that way. "So what do we do now?" she asked. "Well," I said, "I'm thinking we should probably leave this cafe at some point, since they're starting to give us looks. And then maybe we could walk to the park. It's a beautiful day." "I like that." We walked through Riverside Park as the autumn leaves fell around us like confetti. She told me about her students, how Jaden was struggling with fractions but excelled at creative writing, how Emma had recently lost her grandmother and Shanice was trying to give her extra support, how Marcus, yes, like me, she said with a smile, had just moved from another country and was learning English with remarkable speed. I told her about my work, the good days and the hard days, the patients I remembered and the ones I tried to forget. She listened with her whole attention, asking questions that showed she really heard me. At one point, a gust of wind sent leaves swirling around us, and she laughed, spinning with her arms out like a child. Without thinking, I caught her hand and spun her again, and suddenly we were dancing in the middle of the path with no music but the rustle of leaves and the distant sound of the city. "You're a terrible dancer," she said, still laughing. "The worst," I agreed, "but I'm a great hand holder." "That's good," she said, squeezing my hand, "because I'm planning on needing one of those." We walked until the sun started to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. When I finally walked to her car, I didn't want the day to end. "Can I see you again?" I asked, even though I was pretty sure I knew the answer. "Marcus," she said, "you're going to have a very hard time not seeing me again." And then she kissed me, soft and sweet, tasting like caramel and coffee and every good thing I'd ever hoped for. When she pulled away, she was smiling. "Same time next week? How about tomorrow?" I said, "Even better." I watched her drive away, my heart full of that same hope I'd felt in the hospital lobby. Only now it was bigger, brighter, more certain. This wasn't just the beginning anymore. This was the start of everything. Tomorrow turned into the day after, and the day after that, and suddenly weeks had passed, and I couldn't remember what my life had looked like before Shanice was in it. We fell into a rhythm, the way two people do when they're building something real. On my late shifts, she'd wait up, and we'd talk on the phone until one of us fell asleep. On her early mornings, I'd leave little notes in her mailbox, silly drawings, terrible jokes, quotes from the poetry books she loved. She started keeping a collection of them in a shoebox under her bed. I only found out because one evening, when I was at her apartment helping her grade papers, she went to answer the door for a food delivery, and I accidentally knocked the box off her nightstand. Notes scattered across the floor like autumn leaves. Dozens of them. All the little pieces of paper I had left her, carefully smoothed out and saved. "You kept them," I said when she came back, pizza box in hand. She froze in the doorway, seeing what I discovered. A blush crept up her neck. "Of course I kept them. They're mine. I drew a cat wearing a top hat on this one. It's objectively terrible." "It's perfect," she said firmly, setting down the pizza and kneeling beside me to gather the notes. "You drew it for me. That makes it perfect." I helped her collect them, reading them as we went. To Shanice, "Why did the student eat his homework?" "Because the teacher said it was a piece of cake." That one made me laugh out loud during my prep period," she said. "The teacher next door came to check if I was okay." We put the notes back in the box, but I kept one, the first one I'd ever written. Just a simple, "Thinking of you. Hope your day is as beautiful as your smile." She tried to take it back, but I held it out of reach. "This one's mine now," I said. "Fair trade." "That's not how it works." "Then let me earn it." I pulled her close, and she came willingly, fitting against me like she belonged there. "Let me keep being the person who thinks about you, who wants to make you smile." "Okay," she whispered against my chest, "but only because you asked nicely." We ate pizza sitting on her bedroom floor, backs against the bed, talking about everything and nothing. She told me about the fourth grader who'd asked if she had a boyfriend and then, when she'd said yes, had loudly announced that "Miss Shanice is in love" to the whole class. "What did you say?" I asked. I told them to take out their math workbooks and stop being nosy. She paused. "But they weren't wrong." My heart stopped, started again, beat faster. "They weren't." She turned to look at me, her eyes serious now. "No, Marcus, they weren't wrong." I set down my pizza slice. This felt too important for pizza. "Shanice, You don't have to say it back," she said quickly. "I just wanted you to know. I'm in love with you. I think I have been since the vending machine. Maybe even before, when I just saw you walk into the lobby looking like you carried the weight of the world and still tried to smile at strangers. Can I say it anyway? I asked, say what? That I'm in love with you too. That I've been trying to find the perfect moment to tell you, but every moment with you feels perfect. So I kept waiting for something even more perfect, which is ridiculous because how do you improve on perfect? She laughed, and there were tears in her eyes, happy ones. You're rambling again. I know. You make me nervous in the best way. Good, she said and kissed me, tasting like pizza and forever. After that night, something shifted, not in a dramatic way, but in the small, significant ways that matter. She started keeping a toothbrush at my place. I started keeping cereal she liked in my cupboard. We stopped saying goodbye at the end of dates and started saying, see you tomorrow, because tomorrow's a given now. I met her mother properly, not just in passing at the hospital, but for Sunday dinner at her house. Mrs. Johnson. Call me Diane, baby. Served pot roast and watched me with the sharp eyes of someone who'd raised a daughter alone and wasn't about to let just anyone into her life. So you're the doctor, she said, passing me the green beans. Yes, ma'am. The one who bought my baby a chocolate bar. Yes, ma'am. That's a good start, she said. But it takes more than chocolate to love my Shanice. Mom, Shanice protested, mortified. But I looked Mrs. Johnson in the eye and said, yes, ma'am, it does. It takes showing up. It takes listening. It takes being there on the hard days, not just the easy ones. It takes being worthy of her, which is something I'm going to work at every single day. Diane studied me for a long moment, then nodded. All right then. You can have seconds. Later, Shanice told me that was her mother's highest praise. I brought her to meet my own mother over Thanksgiving. Mom lived 2 hours upstate in the house where I'd grown up, and she cried when she met Shanice, pulling her into a hug before I'd even finished the introduction. Oh, Marcus, she said. She's beautiful. Mom, you're embarrassing me. Good. You should be embarrassed. You brought a beautiful woman home, and you're wearing that old sweater with the hole in the elbow. Shanice laughed, completely at ease. I like the sweater. It's Varium. I like her, my mother announced to me, as if Shanice wasn't standing right there. I like her too, Mom. That weekend, we walked through the woods behind my childhood home, our breath visible in the cold November air. Shanice wore my jacket over her own because she'd underestimated the country cold. I wore my old Hawaii sweater because it made her smile. I can see you here, she said, looking at the trees. Running around as a kid, building forts, getting into trouble. Mostly the last one. I admitted, I once convinced my best friend that we could build a zip line between 2 trees. We couldn't. Did you get hurt? Sprained ankle. But the worst part was my dad's face when he found out. Not angry, just disappointed that I hadn't thought it through better. He sounded like he was a good man. He was. I picked up a fallen branch, tossed it ahead of us on the path. I wish you could have met him. He would have loved you. You would have talked about books, and he would have bored you with his terrible poetry. I love terrible poetry, she said. It's honest. We walked in comfortable silence for a while, our gloved hands clasped together. Marcus, she said eventually. Yeah. I'm happy. Right here, right now, in this moment. I'm happy. I pulled her close, kissed the top of her head. Me too, baby. Me too. The path led us to a frozen pond where I'd learned to ice skate as a child. The ice wasn't thick enough yet for skating, but we stood at the edge, looking out at the gray-white surface. Make a wish, Shanice said suddenly. What? On the pond. On this moment. Make a wish. That's not a thing. It is now. I just decided. She closed her eyes, her face serious. I'm wishing. So I closed my eyes too, and I wish for more moments like this. More walks in the cold. More terrible poetry. More Sunday dinners and late-night phone calls and notes in mailboxes. More of her laugh and her mind and her heart. More of everything with her. When I opened my eyes, she was watching me. What did you wish for? She asked. Can't tell you. It won't come true. That's only birthday candles. Better safe than sorry. She rolled her eyes but smiled. Fine, keep your secrets. Only this one, I promised. Winter came, and with it, the kind of cold that makes you grateful for warm apartments and warmer hearts. Shanice had a tradition, she told me one snowy December evening. Every year since her father died, she spent the anniversary of his passing doing something he would have loved. The first year, she'd gone to a jazz club. The second, she'd volunteered at a food bank. The third, she'd donated books to her school library in his name. This year, she said, curled up on my couch with hot chocolate, I want to do something with you, if that's okay. Of course it's okay. What did you have in mind? He loved ice skating. He used to take me every winter when I was little, before he got sick. There's a rink in the city that stays open late on Fridays. So that Friday, I picked her up after her school day ended, and we drove to the outdoor rink in Bryant Park. The city was dressed up for the holidays, lights strung everywhere, the smell of roasted chestnuts in the air. Shanice looked up at the decorations with wonder in her eyes. He would have loved this, she said softly. We laced up our skates. Hers were rental, mine were too, and stepped onto the ice. She was graceful, gliding like she'd been born to it. I was decidedly less graceful. You told me you learned to skate as a kid, she said, watching me wobble. I said I learned. I didn't say I was good at it. She laughed and took my hand, steadying me. Come on, doctor. You've got excellent balance in the ER. Just pretend the ice is a hospital floor. Hospital floors don't try to murder you. Fair point. She skated backwards, pulling me along, patient as I found my rhythm. Around us, couples and families circled the rink. But I was only aware of her smile, her patience, the way she believed I could do this even when I wasn't sure. There you go, she said when I managed a few strokes without flailing. You've got it. I've got you, I corrected. There's a difference. Smooth talker. I have my moments. We skated for an hour, and slowly I got better. Not good, but better. Good enough that when she suggested we try skating side by side, instead of her towing me, I only fell once. Dad would have liked you, she said as we circled the rink, moving in sync now. He always said the measure of a person is how they handle the things they're not good at, whether they give up or keep trying. What would he have thought about me falling on my ass in the middle of the ice rink? He would have thought it was hilarious and sweet, and that you must really love his daughter to make a fool of yourself like this. He would have been right, I said. When we finally left the rink, our cheeks were red from the cold, and our fingers were numb despite our gloves. We found a small Italian restaurant nearby, the kind of place with checkered tablecloths and candles in wine bottles. Over pasta and red wine, Shanice told me stories about her father, how he'd been a high school English teacher who quoted Shakespeare at inappropriate moments, how he cried at every one of her school plays, even when she was just playing Tree Number 3, how he'd taught her to drive in an empty parking lot, and hadn't even yelled when she'd backed into a pole. I miss him every day, she said, but especially on days like this, days that matter. This day matters? I asked, all days with you matter, she said simply. But yes, today especially, because I got to share part of him with you, and that makes him feel less gone. I reached across the table and took her hand. Thank you for sharing him with me. And this day, and yourself, thank you for falling on the ice for me, literally and figuratively. She smiled, but there were tears in her eyes again. I love you, Marcus. I love that you show up, that you listen, that you care about the things that matter to me, even when they're hard or sad or both. I love you too, I said. And Shanice, your dad will be proud of you, of the woman you are, the teacher you become, the way you love people. I know I'm proud to know you. She cried then quietly, and I moved to sit beside her in the booth, holding her while the restaurant continued around us, other people's laughter and conversation providing a gentle background to our moment. Later, as I drove her home through the snowy streets, she fell asleep against the window, her breath fogging the glass. I drove carefully, wanting to preserve her peace, this quiet moment of trust. When we reached her apartment, I gently woke her. "Hey, beautiful. We're home." She blinked awake, smiled sleepily. "Our date's not over yet." "No. Come upstairs. I'll make you real hot chocolate, not the instant stuff." Her apartment was warm and smelled like vanilla candles. She disappeared into the kitchen while I shed my coat and settled on her couch. I could hear her moving around, the clink of mugs, the whistle of the kettle. She returned with 2 mugs of hot chocolate, topped with whipped cream and cinnamon. We curled up together under a blanket, and she put on an old Christmas movie, the kind that's been colorized from black and white. "Marcus," she said during a commercial break. I've been thinking about something." I muted the TV. "What is it?" She sat up, turning to face me. "I know we haven't been together that long. 6 months, give or take. And I know there's no rush, no timeline we have to follow. But I want you to know that I'm all in. This isn't casual for me. You're not casual for me. You're not casual for me either," I said. "Shanice, you're everything. You're the first person I think about in the morning, and the last person I think about at night. You're who I want to tell when something good happens, who I want to see when something bad happens. You're my person." "Your person," she repeated, testing the words. "I like that." "Good, because you're stuck with me now. Promise?" "Promise." She kissed me then, soft and deep, tasting like chocolate and cinnamon and home. When she pulled back, she was smiling. "Move in with me." I blinked. "What?" "Move in with me. Or I'll move in with you. I don't care which. I'm tired of saying goodbye at the end of the night. I'm tired of having 2 sets of everything and never having the right thing in the right place. I want to wake up next to you every morning. I want to fall asleep next to you every night. I want this to be our life, not just dates and sleepovers." My heart was racing. "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything," she said, "except maybe that the vending machine was going to eat my dollar that day." I laughed, pulled her close. Yes, let's move in together. Your place or mine?" "Yours," she said immediately. "It's bigger and closer to my school, and it has that window seat I love." "Done." "When?" "New Year's? Fresh start, new beginning, all that symbolic stuff." "Perfect," I said, kissing her forehead, her nose, her lips. "Absolutely perfect." We fell asleep there on the couch, the movie still playing, our hot chocolate forgotten on the coffee table. And I dreamed of mornings waking up beside her, of shared closets and combined bookshelves, of building a life together one day at a time. When I woke in the early hours of the morning, she was still curled against me, breathing slowly, peacefully. I watched her sleep for a moment, marveling at how someone could become so essential so quickly. I thought about Father, about how he'd taught her to measure people by how they handled challenges. I hoped I was measuring up. I hoped, wherever he was, he knew his daughter was loved fiercely, completely, forever.